The sun was beating down fiercely over the wide, open plains of the American Southwest. The heat shimmered off the dusty ground, and the dry wind carried the scent of earth and cattle. Samuel, a rancher known for his hard work and cautious nature, was riding along the edge of his property. His horse trotted steadily, its hooves kicking up small clouds of dust with every step. The land around him was both beautiful and unforgiving. Rolling hills stretched out as far as the eye could see, dotted with shrubs, cacti, and the occasional rocky outcrop. Life here was hard, and anyone who wanted to survive needed determination, patience, and sharp instincts. Samuel's ranch was his life. For years, he had worked from sunrise to sunset, managing cattle, mending fences, and ensuring the property remained safe from natural dangers and human threats alike. He had heard many stories of conflicts with the local Apache people. The land they had lived on for generations was slowly being taken over by settlers and ranchers, and tensions often ran high. Yet, Samuel also knew that not every story he heard was true. Many times, fear and misunderstanding painted an incomplete picture. Still, he remained vigilant. For in this land, mistakes could be costly. That afternoon, as Samuel rode along a familiar path, he noticed a movement in the distance. At first, he thought it might be a coyote or a stray dog. But as he squinted against the sunlight, he saw a human figure approaching. It was a woman. She was alone, and her pace was careful, almost hesitant. Her long dark hair was tied back loosely, and her clothing, while simple, showed signs of wear and travel. She moved with caution, clearly aware of Samuel's presence even before he reached her. There was something in her posture, a combination of alertness and determination, that immediately caught Samuel's attention. He stopped his horse and observed her silently. The air seemed to hold its breath for a moment. The rustling of the dry grass, the only sound between them. He had heard stories of strangers approaching ranches, often bringing trouble. Yet something about this woman felt different. She did not rush. She did not shout or wave. She simply walked steadily, eyes fixed ahead, clearly aware of the risks she was taking by venturing onto this land. As she drew closer, Samuel spoke, his voice steady but cautious. "Who are you? And why are you here?" The woman paused, her eyes meeting his. There was fear there, but also a quiet strength. She did not lower her gaze. Instead, she took a careful step forward, speaking in a voice that trembled slightly, but carried conviction. "Please. I mean no harm. I only ask for help. My family. We have been struggling. I came here because there is no one else who can help us." Samuel studied her closely. Her words were simple, but the urgency behind them was clear. She seemed honest, yet the risk of deception lingered in his mind. The frontier was not a place for blind trust, but there was something in her eyes, a combination of courage, fear, and hope that made him pause. He could see the marks of hardship on her face. The sun had tanned her skin, and her hands, though delicate, were strong from labor and travel. "Help? What kind of help?" Samuel asked, his voice softer now, though still wary. "I will do anything you ask," she said quickly. "I will serve you. I will work for you. Please, do not send me away. My family depends on me. I can do anything you want." Her words spilled out, desperate, yet composed. She was pleading, yes, but she was not begging in a way that suggested weakness. She was offering herself, her labor, and her honesty as a way to survive. Samuel dismounted slowly, keeping one hand near his belt, not out of threat, but out of caution. "You expect me to just take you at your word?" he asked. "You expect me to let a stranger into my ranch?" She nodded, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "I do not ask for your trust blindly. I only ask for a chance. Please, I have no other way." My family. They need me. If you let me work for you, I will not fail. I swear it. Samuel remained silent, weighing the situation carefully. The woman was clearly intelligent and resourceful. Her speech was precise, and her movements were deliberate. It was rare to see such determination in someone so vulnerable. There was something about her that made him reconsider the stories he had been told. Perhaps not every stranger brought trouble. Perhaps, sometimes, a person could teach you about courage and survival in ways no story could capture. He gestured for her to come closer, and she approached cautiously, keeping her hands visible at all times. Samuel could see that she was physically strong, her arms toned from years of labor. She carried herself with dignity, despite the fear in her voice. It was clear that she had faced hardship before and had survived through resilience and determination. Over the next few moments, Samuel asked her more questions. Where was her family? How had she survived until now? What exactly did she hope to do on his ranch? Her answers were honest and direct. She spoke of her parents and siblings, of days spent searching for food, and nights hiding from danger. She spoke of the skills she had learned, tending to animals, preparing food, and managing household tasks. Each word painted a picture of someone who had endured much, yet refused to give up. By the time the sun had moved lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the plains, Samuel had made a decision. He could not ignore her plea entirely. He could see that she was not a threat, but rather a person caught in circumstances beyond her control. She had offered him honesty and hard work, and in a land as harsh as this, those qualities were rare and valuable. He spoke, his voice calm but firm. I will give you a chance. You will work on this ranch, and you will follow my instructions. If you are honest and hardworking, you will be safe here. But know this: I will not tolerate deception or disobedience. Her face brightened with relief, though she remained composed. Thank you, she whispered. I will not fail you. That evening, as Samuel led her toward the ranch house, the wind shifted and brought a faint smell of the distant desert flowers. The plains stretched endlessly around them, but for the first time that day, the danger that seemed to hang over the land felt a little less severe. Two lives, shaped by very different experiences, were about to intersect. One was a rancher who had spent years protecting his land, and the other was a woman who had faced hardship and uncertainty at every turn. Both carried a quiet strength that the other could not yet fully understand, but in that moment, a fragile trust began to form. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink, Samuel and the woman reached the ranch house. The day had been long, and the heat had taken its toll. But the encounter had set the stage for something unexpected. Neither knew what the future would hold, but both sensed that this meeting was more than chance. It was an opportunity, a chance to learn, survive, and perhaps, in time, understand each other. The woman took a deep breath, looking out over the land she had just entered. She did not know what trials awaited her, but she felt a spark of hope. For the first time in many days, she felt that survival might be possible. And Samuel, watching her quietly, felt something shift inside him as well. He realized that courage could come in many forms, and sometimes it appeared in the most unexpected of places. As night fell and the stars began to dot the sky, the ranch was quiet except for the occasional call of an owl and the rustle of the wind through the grass. Samuel settled near the porch, thinking about the day's encounter, while the woman prepared herself for her first night in a place that could offer safety, but would require patience, diligence, and resilience. Both understood, in their own way, that this meeting was only the beginning of a story neither had anticipated, yet one that held the promise of survival, respect, and perhaps an unlikely friendship. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. Samuel woke early, as he always did, to check on his cattle and inspect the fences. The work was never-ending, but he found comfort in the routine. Today, however, there was an added layer of anticipation. The Apache woman he had met the previous day was staying on the ranch, and Samuel wanted to see how she would handle the first tasks he had assigned to her. She was already awake when he stepped outside. The air was crisp, and a light breeze swept across the plains. She was gathering water from the well, her movements careful and precise. Samuel watched her for a moment, noting how she handled the heavy bucket with steady hands. It was a small task, but in it, he could see her strength and patience. She looked up at him and offered a small, respectful nod, as if to acknowledge his presence without needing words. "Good morning," Samuel said, his voice calm. "Today, I want you to help me with the chores around the barn. There are animals to feed and some repairs that need attention. Follow my instructions carefully, and everything will go smoothly." The woman nodded again. "Yes, sir. I will do my best," she replied. Her voice carried determination, yet it was quiet and respectful. She seemed eager to prove herself, not just for Samuel's approval, but for the safety and well-being of her family. Together, they moved toward the barn. The animals were restless in the early morning light, and Samuel could see that she handled them with care. She fed the chickens, carried hay to the horses, and helped mend a broken fence with surprising skill. Samuel was impressed not only by her ability to work hard, but by her attention to detail. Every task she completed was done thoroughly, without complaint or hesitation. As they worked side by side, Samuel began to ask her more about her life. He was careful not to pry too deeply, understanding that trust needed time to grow. Still, he was curious about the woman who had walked alone into his territory, risking everything to find help. "My family lives a few miles to the west," she explained as she secured a gate. "We have been trying to survive on what little land we have. The drought has made it very hard to grow food, and hunting has become dangerous because of settlers and wild animals. I came here because I had no other choice. I wanted to find someone who could help us, even a little." Samuel listened, silently absorbing her words. Her story was one of hardship, but also of courage. Many would have been too afraid to leave the safety of their home, but she had risked everything to ensure her family's survival. He felt a mixture of admiration and respect. Her determination was clear, and it reminded him of the struggles he had faced as a young rancher. Life on the plains was never easy, and only those willing to endure its challenges could survive. After the morning chores, Samuel led her to the house to prepare a meal. He wanted to see how she managed more domestic tasks, as he knew that a ranch required many skills beyond working with animals and fences. She moved with quiet confidence, chopping vegetables, gathering firewood, and tending to the cooking stove. The smells of bread, baking, and stew simmering filled the small kitchen, creating a sense of warmth and comfort in the otherwise harsh landscape. During the meal, they spoke more about their respective lives. She shared stories of her childhood, of learning traditional skills from her parents, and of the lessons she had learned about survival and resilience. Samuel, in turn, shared tales of his own experiences as a rancher: the long days, the unpredictable weather, and the constant work required to maintain a safe and productive homestead. Their conversation was tentative at first, but gradually, a sense of mutual understanding began to form. The woman's honesty and openness impressed Samuel. She did not ask for charity or sympathy. She asked only for an opportunity to work and prove her worth. Her words were sincere, and her actions supported them. It became clear to Samuel that this was not a person to be underestimated. She had faced many dangers and challenges, yet she remained composed and focused. Her courage was quiet, but undeniable. As the day wore on, Samuel decided to test her further. He gave her a task that required both intelligence and patience: repairing a section of fencing that had been damaged during a recent storm. It was not an easy job. The wood was heavy, the nails were difficult to drive, and the ground was hard and uneven. Many experienced workers would have struggled with it. Yet she approached the task methodically, planning each step carefully and asking questions when she was unsure. Samuel observed from a distance, noting how she worked. Her concentration and determination reminded him that strength was not only physical, it was also mental and emotional. By late afternoon, the repairs were complete. The fence was solid and secure, and the animals were safe once again. Samuel walked over to inspect the work, nodding in approval. "You did well," he said simply. "I was not sure at first if you could handle this task alone, but you proved yourself." The woman smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and quiet pride in her expression. "Thank you," she said. "I wanted to do my best. I cannot afford to make mistakes. Not when my family depends on me." Samuel felt a growing sense of respect for her. It was rare to meet someone who combined intelligence, courage, and determination in such a balanced way. She had entered his world cautiously, yet she had quickly shown that she could adapt and contribute meaningfully. He realized that this encounter was teaching him as much as it was teaching her. In a land where survival often depended on strength and vigilance, the ability to trust, work together, and understand others could be just as important. As evening approached, they completed the remaining chores and returned to the house. The sun sank low in the sky, casting a golden glow across the plains. They shared a simple dinner, speaking quietly about the day's events. Samuel asked her how she felt about the work and whether she thought she could continue at this pace. She nodded, her expression calm but determined. "I can do this," she said. "I must do this. My family needs me, and I will not fail them, or you." Samuel realized that her determination was rooted in something deeper than mere survival. It was a sense of responsibility, a bond to her family and her people that guided her actions. He had encountered many people in his life, but few had displayed such clarity of purpose. He understood that this was not simply about working on a ranch, it was about resilience, courage, and the will to persevere in the face of uncertainty. The night fell quietly over the ranch. The wind whispered through the grass, and the distant calls of animals filled the air. Samuel sat outside for a while, reflecting on the day. He thought about the woman, her strength, and the trust he was beginning to feel toward her. He realized that this encounter, which had started as a moment of tension and uncertainty, was slowly transforming into something meaningful. Two lives, shaped by very different experiences, were beginning to intersect in a way that neither had expected. Inside, the woman prepared for her first night on the ranch. She arranged her small sleeping area with care, ensuring she would be comfortable despite the unfamiliar surroundings. As she lay down, she thought of her family and the risks she had taken to reach this place. She felt a mixture of hope and apprehension, knowing that the days ahead would be filled with hard work, challenges, and lessons. Yet, she also felt a spark of confidence. For the first time in many days, she sensed that survival was possible, not just for herself, but for her family as well. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Samuel and the woman both felt a quiet sense of understanding forming between them. They had not yet become friends, nor had they completely set aside their caution. But a foundation of trust was taking shape. Both recognized the difficulties that lay ahead, but both also understood that, together, they might navigate the harsh realities of the plains more successfully than they could alone. The night was calm, but the lessons of the day would linger. Samuel had witnessed courage, intelligence, and determination in someone he had once regarded as a stranger. The woman had experienced patience, guidance, and cautious acceptance from someone she had initially feared. Their paths had crossed by chance, but the encounter had already begun to change them both. By the time sleep overtook them, the ranch was quiet and still. The wind carried the scent of the plains, and the moon cast a silver light over the fields and fences. Tomorrow would bring more work, more challenges, and more opportunities to understand one another. Both knew that the journey had only just begun, but they also understood that the small steps of trust and effort taken today had laid the groundwork for something that could endure even in a world filled with uncertainty and hardship. The next morning broke over the ranch with a soft glow, the sunlight spilling over the hills and casting a warm light on the fields. Samuel was already awake before dawn, as was his habit, listening to the distant calls of the waking animals and the gentle rustle of the wind through the grass. Today, he planned to assign the woman tasks that would test not only her skill but also her patience and intelligence. He had observed her for days and was beginning to recognize a quiet strength in her that was rare and admirable. The woman was already moving about when he stepped outside. She had learned quickly how to manage the morning chores, gathering water, feeding the animals, and making sure everything was in order. Samuel noticed how methodically she worked, never rushing, yet never wasting a moment. Every movement was purposeful. Every task completed with care. He nodded silently, a small sign of approval, and she returned the gesture with a polite, respectful smile. Today, he decided, she would accompany him to check the far side of the ranch, where fences were damaged and some of the cattle had wandered. It was not an easy area to manage. The land was rough, with rocky terrain, steep inclines, and hidden patches of thorny shrubs. Samuel wanted to see how she handled the challenges, not just physically, but mentally. Working on the edge of the property required observation, patience, and the ability to adapt quickly. As they rode together, Samuel asked her questions not to interrogate, but to understand her thinking and approach. "What do you do if one of the animals goes missing?" he asked. She thought carefully before answering. "I would look for tracks, signs in the ground, broken branches, or anything unusual. I would follow the signs carefully, so I don't scare them away, and try to bring them back safely." Samuel nodded, impressed by her answer. It was clear she had learned observation and problem-solving skills from experience. Many people in his position would have relied on force or loud commands, but she understood patience and careful thought. These were qualities that were sometimes more valuable than strength alone, especially on a ranch where one wrong move could result in lost animals or damaged property. As they approached the far fields, they discovered a small herd of cattle grazing near a rocky hill. A few had wandered too close to the edge, and Samuel instructed her to help guide them back gently, using calm gestures and soft, steady words. She approached with care, moving slowly, not startling the animals. Her calm presence had a soothing effect on the cattle, and one by one, they began to follow her guidance. Samuel watched, realizing that she had a natural way with animals, a skill that would be invaluable on the ranch. After returning the cattle safely, they moved on to the damaged fence. The previous storm had weakened the posts, and some sections were leaning dangerously. Samuel showed her what needed to be repaired, explaining the importance of measuring the posts correctly, driving the nails straight, and ensuring that the structure was strong enough to hold the animals safely. She listened carefully, asking questions when she was unsure, and then began working with a focus and precision that impressed Samuel. Her hands, though small, were strong and skilled, and she handled the heavy posts and tools with confidence. Samuel observed her silently, noting the way she balanced strength and care, determination and patience. It was clear she was learning quickly, but it was also clear that she already possessed many of the skills required to survive in this harsh environment. As they worked, the woman spoke quietly about her life, sharing stories of her family and her people. She described how her parents had taught her to observe the land carefully, to notice patterns in nature, and to understand the behavior of animals. She explained the importance of respect for the land, and how her people had always lived in harmony with it, taking only what was needed and leaving the rest untouched. Samuel listened with interest, realizing that these lessons were valuable not just for survival, but for life on the ranch as well. By midday, the fence was repaired, stronger than before. The work had been hard, and both Samuel and the woman were tired, but there was a quiet satisfaction in their accomplishment. Samuel offered her a drink of water and a simple lunch, which she accepted gratefully. They sat together in the shade, the sun high above them, and shared a quiet moment of reflection. Samuel asked her, "Do you ever feel afraid?" She thought for a moment, before replying, "Of course, I feel afraid sometimes. But fear can be dangerous if it stops you from acting. I have learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act even when you are afraid." Her words struck Samuel deeply. They were simple, yet full of wisdom. In his own life, he had often faced dangers and challenges, but he realized that he had sometimes let fear cloud his judgment or prevent him from seeing possibilities. Her perspective reminded him that strength came in many forms, and that courage and intelligence were as important as physical power. After lunch, they returned to the ranch house, where she helped with household tasks, cleaning, cooking, and organizing supplies. Samuel watched her, noticing how she approached each task with care and attention, even the smallest ones. It was clear that she understood the importance of every detail, and that she took pride in her work. Her presence brought a sense of order and calm to the household, something Samuel had not realized he had been missing. As evening approached, Samuel and the woman took a walk along the edge of the property. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, and the air was cool and gentle. They spoke quietly about the day's work, about the challenges they had faced, and about the lessons they had learned. Samuel shared stories of his early days as a rancher, the mistakes he had made, and the lessons he had learned through hard experience. She listened intently, asking questions and reflecting on his words. In turn, she shared her hopes and fears for her family. She spoke of her younger siblings, of the dreams she held for their future, and of the determination that had driven her to risk everything by coming to the ranch. Samuel felt a growing sense of respect and admiration. She was not just surviving, she was planning, thinking, and acting with purpose. Her courage and intelligence were remarkable, and he realized that he could learn from her as much as she could learn from him. The night fell over the ranch, bringing a sense of calm and stillness. The stars twinkled in the sky, and the wind whispered softly through the grass. Samuel and the woman prepared for the evening, finishing chores and ensuring that everything was in order before settling down. She arranged her small space with care, taking the time to make it as comfortable as possible. Samuel reflected on the day, realizing that their partnership, though unexpected, was becoming a meaningful connection based on trust, respect, and shared effort. As she lay down to rest, the woman thought about the lessons of the day. She had faced new challenges, learned new skills, and proven her abilities not just to Samuel, but to herself. She felt a sense of pride, but also a deep understanding that this was only the beginning of her journey. There would be more difficulties ahead, more tests of courage, patience, and intelligence. Yet she felt ready. She knew that as long as she remained focused, careful, and determined, she could navigate whatever came next. Samuel, sitting outside under the stars, felt a quiet satisfaction as well. He had witnessed courage, skill, and resilience in someone he had once regarded as a stranger. He had seen her grow stronger, more confident, and more capable with each passing day. He understood that the lessons of survival in life were not one-sided. She had taught him the value of patience, observation, and quiet determination. In the harsh and unpredictable world of the plains, such qualities were invaluable. The night passed quietly, the ranch bathed in the gentle light of the moon. Both Samuel and the woman slept with a sense of purpose and readiness, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. They were learning from each other, building a foundation of trust and understanding that would carry them through the trials ahead. The days on the ranch were not easy, but in this quiet partnership, there was hope. Hope for survival, for learning, and for understanding. Hope that even in a world filled with uncertainty and danger, courage, respect, and determination could create a bond strong enough to endure. And as the wind whispered through the grass, Samuel and the woman both felt the truth of that hope deep in their hearts, ready to face whatever the future held. The following morning arrived with a soft, golden light that spilled across the plains, illuminating the ranch in a warm glow. Samuel rose early as usual, his mind already moving through the tasks he wanted to accomplish. Today, he decided, he would test the woman's ability to work independently, without his constant guidance. He had watched her closely over the past days, and it had become clear that she possessed not only strength and skill but also intelligence and patience. It was time to see how well she could handle responsibility on her own. She was already awake when he stepped outside, tending to the animals with quiet precision. Samuel paused for a moment, admiring her dedication. She had adapted quickly to the rhythms of the ranch, learning the habits of the animals, understanding the patterns of the wind and sun, and moving through the work with a confidence that was both surprising and impressive. Today, he would let her handle the morning chores without interruption, observing from a distance to see how she managed. "Good morning," he called out softly. She looked up, her face calm and focused. "Good morning, sir," she replied, her voice steady and respectful. She did not ask for guidance, nor did she show any hesitation. Her expression and posture conveyed a quiet determination that Samuel had begun to respect deeply. He mounted his horse and rode toward the edge of the property, keeping her in view but allowing her space to work independently. She moved with a rhythm and efficiency that made the work seem effortless. Though Samuel knew how difficult these tasks could be, she fed the animals carefully, repaired small breaks in the fences, and even organized the supplies in the barn with a methodical attention to detail. It was clear she understood not just the physical tasks but the importance of organization, planning, and foresight in managing a ranch. By mid-morning, Samuel decided it was time to challenge her further. He led her to a section of the property that had been neglected, overgrown with tall grasses and scattered rocks. This area was difficult to navigate, and repairing it would require careful observation, problem-solving, and endurance. Samuel explained what needed to be done: clearing brush, reinforcing fences, and marking areas where animals could safely graze. She listened intently, absorbing every detail. Then, without hesitation, she began the work, moving through the challenging terrain with steady, deliberate steps. Samuel watched from a distance, noting how she approached each task with thoughtfulness and patience. She did not rush, but she did not waste time. Every movement was purposeful, every decision measured. Her ability to adapt to the difficult terrain, anticipate problems, and solve them as they arose impressed Samuel deeply. As she worked, she spoke quietly about her experiences. She described how her family had taught her to observe the land carefully, to notice patterns in the behavior of animals, and to think ahead about potential challenges. Her words were filled with wisdom, and Samuel realized that these lessons were invaluable not just for survival, but for success in managing a ranch. Her knowledge of the land, her patience, and her problem-solving skills were remarkable. By late afternoon, the area was cleared and repaired, ready to serve as a safe grazing space for the cattle. Samuel approached, nodding in approval. "You have done very well," he said. "I could not have asked for more careful, thoughtful work. You handled this without guidance, and it shows your skill and understanding." The woman smiled faintly, her expression a mixture of relief and quiet pride. "Thank you," she said. "I wanted to do it right. I could not risk making mistakes that would cause problems for the ranch or for you." Samuel realized that her words were not just about the work, they reflected her sense of responsibility, integrity, and awareness of others. She had adapted quickly to a new environment, learned new skills, and approached every task with care and intelligence. Her courage was not loud or dramatic. It was steady, consistent, and practical. It was a type of strength that was often overlooked, but was essential in a world as harsh and unpredictable as the plains. Later in the day, Samuel decided to involve her in a more complex task: checking the livestock for signs of illness or injury. He taught her how to recognize subtle signs that an animal was unwell, how to administer basic care, and how to ensure the herd remained healthy. She observed carefully, asking thoughtful questions, and then began examining the animals herself. Samuel watched, impressed by her attentiveness and her ability to apply what she had learned. Her work was precise, her observations accurate, and her care genuine. During a quiet moment, Samuel asked her about her family again. Curious about the people she had risked so much to help, she spoke of her parents and siblings, of the challenges they faced, and of the lessons her family had taught her about resilience, patience, and responsibility. She described the pride she felt in being able to contribute to her family's survival and how that sense of duty guided her actions. Samuel listened quietly, understanding that her courage and determination were deeply rooted in love and responsibility, not just the desire for survival. As the afternoon sun began to set, casting long shadows across the fields, Samuel and the woman took a brief walk to inspect the fences and gates. The wind carried the faint scent of wildflowers and dry earth, and the ranch seemed peaceful despite the hard work of the day. They walked side by side, speaking quietly about the tasks they had completed, the lessons they had learned, and the challenges that still lay ahead. Samuel began to feel a growing respect and admiration for her. She was not only hardworking and intelligent, but also thoughtful and reflective. Her presence on the ranch was transforming the environment not through dramatic action, but through steady, consistent effort and careful attention to detail. She had earned his trust, and in doing so, she had created a sense of partnership that was rare in such challenging times. As evening fell, they returned to the house, tired but satisfied with the day's accomplishments. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Inside, they prepared a simple meal together, sharing the work and conversation in a rhythm that felt natural and comfortable. They spoke quietly about the day, about the progress they had made, and about the importance of diligence, patience, and careful observation. After dinner, the woman arranged her small sleeping area, making it as comfortable as possible. She reflected on the day, thinking about the new skills she had learned, the challenges she had overcome, and the sense of confidence she had gained. She felt proud, not just of completing the tasks, but of proving to herself that she was capable, adaptable, and resilient. Samuel, sitting outside under the stars, felt a quiet satisfaction as well. He had watched someone face difficulties, adapt to a new environment, and demonstrate skill, patience, and intelligence. He realized that their partnership was about more than survival or work. It was about learning from one another, respecting one another, and building trust through consistent effort and understanding. The night was calm and still. The wind rustled softly through the grass, and the distant call of an owl echoed across the plains. Samuel and the woman settled into their respective spaces, each reflecting on the day and the lessons it had brought. Both understood that the journey was far from over, that challenges lay ahead, and that their partnership would require continued effort, trust, and understanding. Yet, both also felt a quiet confidence. Together, they had faced difficult tasks, learned from each other, and begun to form a bond that was rare, meaningful, and resilient. As sleep claimed them, the ranch remained peaceful under the moonlit sky. The stars shimmered above, and the plains seemed endless and full of possibility. Tomorrow would bring more work, more tests of skill and patience, and more opportunities to grow. But both Samuel and the woman knew that they were ready. They had discovered strength in one another, courage within themselves, and the value of trust, understanding, and shared effort. And in that quiet moment, as the wind whispered and the night held its calm, a bond was solidifying. A bond built not on fear or obligation, but on respect, determination, and the quiet courage to face life's challenges together. It was a bond that would carry them through the days ahead, shaping not just the ranch, but the lives of both who had come together through circumstance, effort, and an unspoken understanding of each other's worth and resilience. The morning sun rose gently over the ranch, casting a warm glow across the fields, fences, and scattered cattle. Samuel woke with a sense of anticipation, knowing that today would be another test of both patience and trust. Over the past days, the Apache woman had proven herself to be skilled, intelligent, and reliable, and he wanted to see how she would handle new responsibilities that required both initiative and judgment. She was already awake when he stepped outside, moving through her morning tasks with quiet focus. She had learned the rhythm of the ranch, understanding the habits of the animals, the patterns of the wind, and the subtle changes in the land. Samuel watched from a distance, noting her steady movements and calm confidence. She no longer required constant supervision, and he realized that she had grown remarkably in just a short time. "Good morning," he called softly. She looked up, her eyes bright and determined. "Good morning, sir," she replied. Her voice carried the quiet strength that had impressed him from the beginning. She did not need guidance for every action, but she remained respectful and attentive, understanding the importance of both independence and cooperation on the ranch. Today, Samuel planned to involve her in the most complex tasks yet, overseeing a small group of new cattle and ensuring they were integrated safely with the rest of the herd. This required observation, strategy, and careful action, as any mistake could cause the animals stress or injury. Samuel explained the plan clearly, emphasizing the importance of patience, attention to detail, and gentle guidance. She listened intently, absorbing every detail. Then, without hesitation, she began implementing the plan. She guided the new cattle with calm, steady gestures, speaking softly to reassure them. Her understanding of animal behavior was remarkable. She anticipated their movements, corrected potential problems before they escalated, and kept the entire group organized and safe. Samuel observed silently, feeling a growing admiration for her ability to handle responsibility with skill and confidence. As the day progressed, they faced additional challenges. A sudden change in the weather brought strong winds and a light rain, making the ground slippery and the animals restless. The woman adjusted quickly, adapting her approach to maintain control and ensure the safety of the herd. Samuel realized that her strength was not just physical. It was also mental and emotional. She could remain calm under pressure, think clearly, and act decisively, qualities that were essential for life on the ranch. During a brief pause in the work, Samuel asked her about her family again. She spoke of her parents, siblings, and the struggles they had faced over the years. She explained how her experiences had taught her resilience, resourcefulness, and the importance of careful planning. Samuel listened carefully, realizing that the lessons she had learned in her own life were now helping her succeed in a completely different world. By late afternoon, the tasks were complete, and the ranch was in order. The new cattle were safely integrated, the fences were secure, and the animals were calm. Samuel approached her, nodding with approval. "You have done exceptionally well," he said. "You have handled responsibilities that many experienced ranchers would find challenging. I am impressed with your skill, intelligence, and patience." The woman smiled, a mixture of relief and quiet pride in her expression. "Thank you," she said. "I wanted to do my best, not just for you, but for my family. I cannot fail them, and I cannot fail the work we do here." Samuel realized that her words reflected more than just dedication. They reflected integrity, courage, and a deep sense of responsibility. She had grown from a cautious stranger seeking help into a reliable, skilled, and thoughtful member of the ranch. Her courage had not been loud or dramatic. It had been steady, practical, and consistent, showing itself in her actions and her thoughtful approach to every challenge. As evening approached, Samuel decided it was time to have a more personal conversation with her. They walked together along the edge of the ranch, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. The air was cool and gentle, carrying the scent of grass, earth, and distant flowers. "You have done more than I expected," Samuel said quietly. "When you first arrived, I was cautious and unsure. But you have shown remarkable strength, intelligence, and character. You have earned my trust completely." The woman's eyes brightened, though she remained humble. "Thank you, sir. I never wanted to cause trouble. I only wanted to help my family and do what was right. I am grateful for your trust." Samuel smiled faintly. "Trust is built through action and honesty, and you have shown both in abundance. You have reminded me that courage and resilience can come in many forms, and that sometimes the quiet, steady strength is the most important." The woman nodded, understanding the depth of his words. She knew that their relationship had grown beyond mere survival or work. It was now based on mutual respect, understanding, and a recognition of each other's abilities and values. She felt a sense of pride and hope, knowing that her efforts had not only helped her family, but had also earned the admiration of someone she respected deeply. As night fell, they returned to the house, where the final chores were completed. The ranch was quiet, except for the occasional sounds of animals settling for the night. They shared a simple meal together, speaking softly about the day, the work, and the lessons they had learned. Both reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point, from a tense first encounter filled with uncertainty and fear, to a partnership built on trust, diligence, and understanding. After dinner, the woman arranged her small sleeping area, making it comfortable and organized. She thought about her family, the risks she had taken, and the new skills and confidence she had gained. She felt proud, not just of surviving, but of proving to herself that she was capable, resourceful, and resilient. The days on the ranch had tested her in every way, yet she had risen to the challenges, learning and growing through every task. Samuel, sitting outside under the stars, reflected on the woman's journey as well. He had witnessed her courage, intelligence, and determination firsthand. He realized that their partnership had transformed not just the work on the ranch, but the way he viewed the world and the people in it. Her presence had reminded him of the value of patience, careful observation, and quiet courage. It had also shown him that trust and understanding could create bonds stronger than fear or suspicion. The night was calm and peaceful. The wind whispered through the grass, and the moon cast a gentle glow across the fields and fences. Samuel and the woman settled into their respective spaces, each reflecting on the day and the journey that had brought them together. They understood that the challenges of the ranch, and life itself, would continue to test them. But they also knew that they had discovered strength, courage, and partnership in one another. As sleep claimed them, both felt a quiet sense of hope and accomplishment. They had faced difficulties, learned new skills, and built trust through careful effort and understanding. The woman had grown from a stranger seeking help into a valued and respected member of the ranch. Samuel had learned the power of observation, patience, and quiet courage, and had discovered that trust and mutual respect could transform even the most uncertain situations. The next morning, the ranch would continue to demand hard work and vigilance. The tasks would be many, and the challenges would not disappear. But both Samuel and the woman felt ready. They had built a foundation of trust, respect, and understanding that would carry them through the days ahead. The plains were vast, unpredictable, and sometimes harsh, but together, they could face whatever came their way with courage, intelligence, and perseverance. Their story was not one of dramatic heroics or sudden triumphs. It was a story of steady effort, patience, learning, and growth. It was a story of two people from very different worlds coming together through circumstance and choice, discovering in each other a strength and resilience that allowed them to face life's challenges with confidence and hope. And as the sun rose over the ranch, casting light across the fields and hills, both knew that this journey, the work, the lessons, and the bond they had formed, was only the beginning of something enduring and meaningful. In the quiet moments that followed, as the ranch settled into the rhythm of life and work, Samuel and the woman both understood a simple truth. Courage is shown through persistence, trust is built through consistent action, and strength is measured not by force alone, but by patience, integrity, and understanding. Their journey together had proven that even in a world filled with uncertainty, respect, dedication, and partnership could create something lasting, meaningful, and hopeful. And so, under the endless sky, with the wind whispering softly through the grass, the ranch stood as a testament to hard work, trust, and the quiet courage of two individuals who had come together to survive, learn, and grow not just as rancher and helper, but as people who had discovered strength, understanding, and respect in one another.